Our Cashin crew this week, Gary Kaltbaum, Gina Loudon, Tracy Carrasco, and David Mercer. Hey, guys.
Hey, Lauren.
Gary, let's start with you. Happy New Year. The president's biggest accomplishments in 2017. What do you think they are, Gary?
Well, look, there's a lot of rhetoric on both sides. The only thing I care about is outcome. The stock market has soared. The economy has accelerated. Unemployment's down at 4%. Hispanic and black unemployment are lows going back many, many years. You have $1.5 trillion being kept in the economy over the next 10 years because of a tax bill, which, by the way, 500,000 people are now getting $500 million because of it. And then let's throw in the mandate, that stupid, silly mandate that hurt the people that make $50,000 or less most. That's going by the wayside. I'm a happy camper with all this, and I hope it continues. My one big worry, debt and deficits that have been foisted upon an unwary public over the last 20 years, they may come home to roost one day.
So the economy overall is Trump's biggest accomplishment in 2017, says Gary. What say you, David?
I say that's an inherited economy, nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Whoa.
And that being, the one accomplishment they will speak to is the tax cut that was just passed. That I don't think makes for a great presidency and won't make America great again. Just think about it. On average, we're going to have one major piece of legislation per year by this president. So at the end of this, we're going to be saying he was a great president with 4 pieces of legislation? Come on, I don't think so.
All right, he chipped away at Obamacare with this tax reform win in 2017. Gina, I'm also thinking deregulation. That certainly helped the economy, for instance. What else do you see as the big winners for the president this year?
Yeah, it's impossible to pick because there's honestly so much. To call it one piece of legislation is really just to highlight the fact that the Democrats have been wholly uncooperative with anything to boost our economy whatsoever, even tax reform. But the president has gone ahead and done things without them, like deregulation that you mentioned. And I love that because, of course, that's freedom. But you can't take for granted, too, what he did, for example, decimating ISIS. I mean, that's so we can sleep at night. And there are so many things that have gone unheralded as well. Human trafficking, being called to a halt. There are so many things, and I foresee this president continuing to negotiate our best deals domestically and internationally, as he's done so far.
Tracy, what do you think the big accomplishment for 2017 is?
I'm going to have to agree. The economy, this Trump administration has been good for Wall Street. It's also been good for our 401ks. That's what a lot of people care about. We are looking at the markets. We're looking at the Dow up 25% year to date. The S&P 500 up 20%. NASDAQ up 29%. These are big numbers. And I think this has been a big accomplishment to carry through 2017. Of course, a lot of the success did start in late 2016. So it's been a good year with the economy.
All right. Where do you see us going? What does the president need to work on for 2018? Gary, I'm going to bring it back to you. We can see an infrastructure plan, possibly. You hope that gets bipartisan support. What do you see being the priority for 2018?
Well, for me, you have to go after entitlements because that's where the big gargantuan deficit spending is going to be over the next 10 years. But there's an election in 2018, and I'm not so sure they will go after that. But I am fine with infrastructure as long as it's paid for correctly. Let's do a private public partnership, something like that. I think immigration reform, presidents have been promising that for the last 30 years and nothing's ever been done. We need to do that. And welfare reform. You just can't continue to dole out $1 trillion a year to welfare. What we need to do is get these people off of welfare and into workfare. And I think that's been happening recently, and let's hope that continues.
Paul Ryan might be more inclined to deal with entitlement reform. Mitch McConnell, perhaps more inclined to deal with infrastructure. But Gina, I want to ask you about immigration reform. Do you see President Trump, because this is one of the many things he campaigned on, do you see President Trump saying to Congress, look, here's the ultimatum. You want a deal on DACA, on all these dreamers that are here raised in the United States. You want a deal on them? Fund my border wall. Show me the money. Do you see him doing that?
the border wall, and I don't think he's going to ignore chain migration either. We know that that has become a massive problem in our country, and it really is just a sort of a shady way to continue to import people who get here illegally. And so I think that he'll confront both of those things if he's going to listen to them on the whole DACA situation. It'll be interesting to see where the base comes down on that. But I do think that he will take on this wall issue. I believe that 100%, because so far he's been a man of his word, clear down to things like putting the capital back in Jerusalem. So I don't see how he wouldn't take that issue on. I foresee that.
Yeah, and the estimated cost of that wall is what, like $22 billion. David, let me bring you here because we had several terrorist attacks in this country this year and overseas. The one I'm thinking of is the most recent, the subway bomber here in New York City. He was the nephew of an American citizen that was able to come here because of our chain immigration system. How do you think the president tackles that in 2018?
Well, he'll probably stick to his guns in halting the immigration or restricting the immigration of those coming from countries that he identified, which we might, just as a footnote, mention that those states or those countries haven't had anybody here that has committed a terrorist attack, and Saudi and others that have had citizens from their countries commit attacks are not on that Muslim ban list. So he might want to adjust his immigration policies in order to target those that have a history of having people here in the States posing a threat to our security and individuals around the country.
Yeah, but Tracy, David's mentioning the travel ban is, at last check, controversial, yes, but some version of it still stands as
Only
the law
some
of the
version.
land.
Yep.
Yeah, that's been something that's been ongoing, something that the administration has struggled to really tackle. I don't know if that's really going to get done in 2018. I do believe it needs to, but it's just been too difficult, I think. But going back to, I think the administration really needs to get on infrastructure. That's what I think is one of the priorities for 2018. I think it needs to get done earlier rather than later with the midterm elections coming up. I think the later they wait, the harder it will be. And I think this can be something that can be done with bipartisanship.
Yeah, but don't pay for the infrastructure spending, fixing the airports and the roads by raising my gas taxes. That's not going to fly, in my opinion, in an election year. We have the midterms next year. Gina, is there anything else that, if you could advise the president, if you were sitting down next to him, what would you say? President Trump, you need to do this in 2018. What would that be?
Tweet more.
Tweet
that
more.
Is his communication with that is his communication. That's how he goes around the traditional establishment apparatus media, and I think that it's important. I also think that psychologically it's important to him to have the rallies. I think that's where he listens to the real pulse of the American people. I don't ever want him to lose touch with the American people and to stop being their voice. And so I think those things are important.
All right.
Just set the conditions for the people to thrive. It's not government that creates the success of this country. It is the hardworking men and women of this country that gets the job done. You keep doing that, things are going to be just fine going forward.
Amen.
And try being a little more forthright with the American people and try a little more honesty. There you go.
Tracy, I'll give you the final word.
I'm gonna say tweet maybe a little less. I understand that is what he likes to do, but I think some things get lost in the message there. I think we need to work on communication just a little bit more.
All right, coming up, here we go again. President Obama.